Hey Facebook, welcome to Real Life Cooking. We are back. No one is here yet. I thought you guys were waiting. Oh, TT, you're here. Yes, one person. Oh, Steph, hey Steph. Trisha Muse and one other. Hey guys. Just getting set up. As you can see, I am in a brand new kitchen. Woohoo! First episode ever in my new beautiful kitchen. So there's a little, technological things to figure out, making sure my angles are right. Hey guys, welcome to Real Life Cooking. I'm so excited to be with you here tonight. First episode of First episode of Real Life Cooking in the new year, new house, new me, new person growing inside of me. We're all here. Today's episode is really special. It is a special Black History Month episode. So I will be frying fish and making some coleslaw, which I'll explain a little bit why I'm doing that exactly. Black History Month started in 1915 as 1 week, and now here we are a whole month later. And so I thought it'd be really nice to pay homage to something that is pretty important and pretty integral to the Black community, the fried fish sandwich, technically. So Real Life Cooking, for those of you who have not been here before, one moment please. For those of you who have not been here before, Real Life Cooking is a show where we make a meal from start to finish with no TV magic at all. Everything I do right along with you. I know there's actually some people cooking along tonight, which is awesome. So I'll try to go slow because I know I talk fast. So yeah, tonight we're making fried catfish or fried whitefish, whatever fish you want to create yourself or fry yourself. And then we're also making coleslaw, but we're not making your grandma's coleslaw that's like mayo based. Well, there's mayo, but we're not making like a super creamy coleslaw. I'm trying to like hype it up, modernize it just a little bit. What's going on with my angles? It's a little tilted.
Yeah, which one's your Facebook?
This one's Facebook.
Oh, because then I just made this one.
Whoops. Like I said, we're in a whole new kitchen, so it's just taking us, a little bit of adjusting to get this started. As always, we have, well, not always, sometimes she, has better things to do with her life, but we have our original technological guru, TT, here to answer any of your questions, well, to relay any of your questions to me in the chat. So if you have any questions about what I'm doing along the way tonight, please let us know, and she will relay the message to me, and I will answer your culinary questions live. Very, very excited to bring back Real Life Cooking. I'm going to be going until April 4th or so this year. And I have a lot of special, really cool guests coming up as well. So make sure to come back every Sunday. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dog. Just turn it on and give me the streams. That would be awesome. All right, so not before we get started, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to get started with our catfish. I actually found catfish today, which I was very surprised. I didn't know that Whole Foods sold catfish, but apparently they do. Catfish is a bottom feeder fish. Let me grab it out of the fridge. Which is why some people don't like it, because it can kind of taste like old or like dirt, kind of. I'm really making this sound appealing here, right? It just doesn't taste as like clean as other fish necessarily, because it feeds on the bottom. It feeds all these things that we don't necessarily eat or want to eat. But it is a staple in our communities, along with a lot of other fish. Like other fish is relatively cheap. These kind of fish like catfish, whiting, flounder, even snapper. Snapper's kind of getting up there in the fish costs. But today I'm making catfish. I particularly like catfish, but I like it prepared in one way because of that like kind of weird taste it has sometimes. I like to soak my catfish in milk. So I have my 2 fillets here. They're pretty big. They're actually very big. 2, they're still stuck to the paper. 2 catfish fillets. I'm gonna cut these into like 1-inch pieces or so. And then I'm gonna soak them in some milk. We have a question already?
Yes, we have a comment and then we have a question. So someone cooking along is using grouper. So the question is there any change that needs to be made if you're using a different fish instead of catfish?
No, not at all. This recipe is universal for any kind of white fish that you're going to fry. But again, I like to use catfish because it reminds me, my dad used to use catfish a lot. So it's probably the cheapest out of all the fish I just mentioned. But yeah, same recipe basically. The flavor of the fish is obviously gonna be a little bit different, but you'll be fine. Question?
More questions. How about if you're using oysters?
Oh, if you're using oysters, it's going to be very different. Are you actually cooking along, whoever's using oysters?
Sonia Griffin. I don't know yet.
Well, let us know if you're cooking along. I wouldn't soak the oysters in milk like we're going to do for the fish. But, yeah. Question?
We have a lively bunch.
No, I've never had this many questions so soon.
The question is, can you use a substitute for milk? Like, can you use buttermilk, almond milk? What can you use?
Good question. Yes, you can use any of the above. Buttermilk, almond milk, soy milk, just something. So basically what the milk is doing, or any sort of, I say dairy, it's not going to be dairy if it's almond milk. It's kind of just drawing out and like mellowing out the flavor of the fish. So you can use any of those things. Notice I'm cutting my fish into like about this inch pieces. And also notice I have my paper. This is like one of my favorite tricks. I have my paper of my fish just spread out on my cutting board. So I'm cutting the fish on this paper. So then I don't have to clean my cutting board so thoroughly after I finish cutting the fish. Time saver tip there. So just cutting it up. I probably could have only got one fillet of fish. I don't know why I was being so overzealous. The guy in Whole Foods was like, oh, you want 2 big fillets? I was like, yeah, sure, give them to me. So yeah, I have a lot of catfish here. Do you like catfish, TT?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then we have at least 2 people cooking along. One person is using whiting, and the other person is using grouper. Yeah, so both of those are great fish. Whiting you'll find a lot in like fried fish restaurants. It's also pretty inexpensive. I'm gonna just throw this away and switch out my knife and wash off my hand because I have like fishness on my hands. So now we have our fish in our bowl. Question. So this start of the season with this question. Demetrius wants to know, what kind of knives do you use and recommend? So I always recommend, as a starter chef knife, you need you don't need, but I recommend a Victorinox knife. That's the knife I was just using. It's really inexpensive. It's like $40 and it's easy to sharpen, lasts a really long time. And do not be fooled, like, unless you're like trying to be a real chef, you don't necessarily need to buy that whole knife block with like all these different size knives, because it'll have like a fillet knife and a bread knife and I don't know what other kind of knife, but you don't need them all. Really the only knife you need if you're just like a regular home cook is your chef knife. So that's why I would say just invest in a really good chef knife and don't worry about any of the other ones. Also, storing your knives in like that butcher block isn't necessarily the best thing for them, because sometimes moisture can hide in there and like they get dull. Just not the best. All right, so now that we have our fish in a bowl, we're gonna season our fish. So this is, I would say this was about a pound, 1.4 pounds of fish by the time I had my 2 fillets. So it's a little more than what I anticipated. I told you guys about a pound. So I'm gonna season with my heart here. But if I had about a pound, I would use 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and half a teaspoon of oregano. So if you want to follow that, totally fine. That is the recommended amount. Your fish will be very flavorful. If you want to follow your heart and add more, nothing ever came from adding too much seasoning, especially like here now, because we're going to be soaking it in the milk. So it's just going to be a little diluted and it's just going to impart into the fish. It's not going to be like directly on it. Do we have another question? Yeah. How many, for normal people, how many servings does it make with 1 pound?
So I would say, like, generally, good rule of thumb for protein is about 1/4 of a pound per person. So a pound should be like 4 servings. Now, that's like, you know, American guidelines, American standards, and not necessarily like real life kind of.
Americans don't follow.
Yeah. Well, like that's like what we tell ourselves to be healthy. I would say, especially something fried, people could eat like a 1/2 pound by itself. It's very easy to eat. So a 1/2 pound, anywhere from 1/4 pound to a 1/2 pound for each person. Oops, that's a little bit more than I wanted. Now, so these are my recommended seasonings for this. You can use any kind of seasonings you like. These are pretty traditional. You always, especially when working with something like catfish that has that like flavor I was describing earlier that I will not say again. You want to add something smoky to it to kind of like counterbalance that. And the oregano kind of just pulls everything together, and garlic is always necessary. Onion powders in here would be nice. I don't like to overwhelm you guys with like tons and tons of ingredients in this, so I like to keep it pretty simple. Another solution is to add like one of those all-in-one seasonings here. So like an Italian seasoning, like a garlic and herb seasoning, like Miss Dash or something. Mrs. Dash, sorry, she's a married woman. Anything, but at least a tablespoon or a teaspoon and a half of whatever seasoning you're using per pound of fish. And then also we want to add in some salt. We have a question.
You kind of went over it, but can you go over it again? What seasonings did you use in this on fish so far?
I'm looking for my salt. Oh, I forgot. I switched it out to my new fancy little Marvel one. We use paprika. We use equal amounts of paprika and garlic powder, and then half a teaspoon of oregano. And then I'm gonna add at least a teaspoon of salt, which I just kind of eyeball as well. All right, once I have all my seasoning in, I'm going to put a decent amount of milk. I know on the recipe it said milk, not like how much. But you want to like probably at least a cup. However much fish you're using, you want it to almost be completely submersed. If you wanted to submerge it completely, you could. But you're kind of wasting milk because you can't do anything with it after. So I like to put it like almost like 3/4 of the way up, and then I'll just kind of like move everything around in here. Also, I like to put sometimes some lemon zest in here too. That kind of like brightens it up and adds a nice floral flavor as well. All right, so I'm just gonna massage the milk into my fish. Also, this is kind of a weird thing, but I always like to smell things that I season, like ground meat and like fish that's marinating, because it has a certain smell to it. It'll smell flavorful. It'll smell like, hold on, let me see if I can describe it. It smells, I don't know, it just smells good. It smells like I could eat it now, but I know I can't because it's raw fish. So make sure to smell your fish. And we're just gonna set this aside, leave it out at room temperature. I'm gonna rinse off my hand again. Leave it out at room temperature for up to an hour. Actually, when you marinate things, you always wanna leave them out at room temperature, because the marinade and the seasoning and stuff is gonna penetrate it a little bit more. Now, if I was gonna try to marinate this overnight, I would not leave this out overnight. It's fish. You wouldn't wanna leave out fish or seafood more than an hour. And poultry, you can leave out up to like 3 or 4 hours. But anything further than that, throw it in the fridge. All right, cool. So fish is marinating. Thank you guys all for joining us tonight. If you're just joining, welcome to Real Life Cooking. We are making fried catfish or fried fish, and we're making not your grandma's coleslaw. So, oh, also one more note. You can also add a couple of dashes of hot sauce, which, I think I will, because we have the most gigantic bottle, not this one, but we have a gigantic bottle of hot sauce in the fridge, which I will show you. Dang, now my hand is dirty. Now I'm gonna use a spoon because I don't want to wash your hand again. Do we have another question?
We do have a question. What do you have against Grandma's coleslaw?
I have nothing against Grandma's coleslaw, but I used to secret, that's now not gonna be a secret anymore. I used to hate coleslaw because disgusting. I actually used to hate mayonnaise. Like in general, it just grossed me out. And coleslaw is nothing but cabbage with mayonnaise on it. So I'm kind of making a slightly lighter version. It still has mayonnaise in it because in my older years, I've grown to appreciate that mayonnaise, like the creamy, well, not really mayonnaise, but creaminess goes really well with the fried fish or fried things. But you could totally make this recipe with more of like a vinaigrette kind of thing. I'll explain that as we get into it, rather than using the mayonnaise at all. But yeah, cabbage, coleslaw, I'm still not all the way like onto coleslaw, because it is mayonnaise it's cabbage with mayonnaise and sugar and lemon, which when you describe it like that, it doesn't sound great. And I don't know anyone, if you're in this chat and you love coleslaw, please let me know, because I don't think I've met anyone in life that like loves coleslaw. But if you do, cool. Actually, my mom kind of likes coleslaw. Oh, hold on. My iPad is telling me, I hope my iPad doesn't die. It's at 4%, but it's plugged in. Don't die, iPad. All right, so, oh, Champagne Jazzy, hello. I thought you were Drake. I was like, dang, Champagne Poppy is here. Awesome. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our coleslaw. Our fish is marinating here. So for our coleslaw, we're gonna work on our vinaigrette first. We're gonna need a bowl. And for our vinaigrette, we're gonna be using mayonnaise after I just said all those things about mayonnaise. We're going to be using mayonnaise. We're going to be using lime juice, or I suggested rice vinegar if you don't have lime juice. And we are going to be using honey, which I did not take out. Honey. And we are going to be using some fresh herbs, but I'll get into those in a second. So basically the basis of any coleslaw recipe is like a sauce or like a mayo-based sauce. In general, basic coleslaw, not to say basic, but you know, normal coleslaw, it's literally mayonnaise and some sort of acid, like lemon juice or vinegar. And it's mostly mayonnaise based. It could be like a cup of mayonnaise per like the amount of things that we're using. T's over here like,
no, thank you.
But, so we're gonna be using mayonnaise. A majority of our liquid is actually gonna come from our acid. Being from California, I love acidic things, especially with fried items, because again, it kind of pops in your mouth, it kind of balances out that friedness. So I'm gonna be using limes, or if you have rice vinegar, that works really well as well. And then there's a sweetener in coleslaw, which is generally white sugar. In this case, we're gonna make it slightly healthier by using honey. And I'm gonna give you exact amounts for this coleslaw recipe, but coleslaw is another one of those things that you kind of have to play around with what you like in your flavors. There's not like a huge amount of technique involved in making coleslaw. It's more about balancing those flavors exactly how you like them and making it taste good at the end. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, we have a question.
Question about rice vinegar. Should they use sweet and tangy or regular rice vinegar?
I would use regular rice vinegar because we're gonna be adding the honey. But if you had sweet and tangy, totally possible. You just might wanna cut back on the amount of honey that you're using. All right, so for our limes, we're gonna squeeze them. I always love to show this trick because, you know, generally we cut our limes directly in half. We try to squeeze them, they're hard, it's annoying, blah, blah, blah. Because you've been doing it wrong all these years. You actually want to cut your lime into thirds. So I cut it slightly off center one way, slightly off center again. So I have 3 halves that look like this. And you can see they're already starting to drip, which like never happens when you cut it. So this is my third, which never happens when you cut it just directly in half. So now I'm gonna squeeze, actually I might as well cut both at the same time. Cut it into my thirds. So it looks like 2 halves or 2/3, but then there's like this random weird middle piece. And for this middle piece, I like to cut that in half. So it looks like that. My mouth is like juicing as I'm cutting these limes. All right, so I have all my limes. And the exact measurement, if you're a measurement person, is 1/4 of a cup. But I'm just gonna squeeze both of these limes and see what happens. It should work out perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm a more of an acidic person. I like acidic things. So if there's a little bit more acid in a recipe, it's not gonna bother me at all. And in this case, we'll have the chance to balance it out with our honey or our mayo. So.
What are you doing right now? Are you twisting it?
So yeah, so for the middle pieces that I cut into like the 2 pieces, I kind of just twist it. You can see all that juice, woo, all that juice coming off of it. And then for this part, the like kind of half part I have, it's really easy to just squeeze and you see all that lime juice that came off. But then to get even more bang for my buck, because we know limes are expensive, they're like 79 cents each, I just kind of flip it out onto itself and squeeze out all that lime juice from there. Question?
Question. If you're using rice wine vinegar, rice vinegar, do you use that and the limes, or do you just use one or the other?
I would use one or the other. The lime is gonna add like a slightly interesting flavor. So if you have both, I would use majority. I wouldn't use like 1/4 of a cup of each, but you might wanna use like half of the lime juice and then half of the rice wine vinegar. It's just gonna add different flavor, honestly. It's a different kind of acidity depending on what you're using.
So if you're using rice vinegar, it should also just be 1/4 of a cup.
Yes. Whatever acid you're using, 1/4 of a cup. All right. Let's move these into my fake trash bowl that I have off camera over here. All right. So we have our lime juice in here, 1/4 of a cup, whatever acid you're using. You could even use lemon juice. That's more traditional in coleslaw, so this is more of a twist on it. Then we're gonna add in our 1/4 of a cup of mayo, which is about that much. Even look like, I eat mayo now, but just looking at it really still disgusts me. But I eat it, so can't disgust me that much.
When did you start eating mayo?
I don't know when I started eating mayo. Like,
Like years ago, you started eating it?
No, I think, yeah, years ago. Like probably like at least 5 or 6 since I've moved to New York. All right, so my mayo's in here. I'm gonna add in my 2 tablespoons of, well, I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of honey and see how I feel about when I get there. So my honey, 2 tablespoons is what the recommended amount is because most people don't like acid as much as I do. Again, I'm an acidic person, so I'm not acidic myself. I'm not toxic, but I like the flavor of acidity. And then the final thing that I didn't mention at the very beginning is a garlic clove. So garlic clove is going to kind of balance out that tartness and balance out that sweetness and kind of just like round everything out. What I'm gonna do, fresh garlic here, you don't wanna use that garlic product. What I'm gonna do is actually microplane my garlic clove into this.
And if you don't have a microplane, what should you do?
If you don't have a microplane, you should just chop up your garlic really, really small as you can make it. But if you don't have a microplane, you should buy a microplane because it's the best tool in your kitchen. Because look at how easy that was. In like less than 30 seconds, I microplaned my garlic and I can just tap it into my coleslaw mixture. All right, so now I have everything in here. It looks not that appetizing, but don't worry, have faith. Your coleslaw will turn out amazing. I'm actually gonna switch over to a fork because that's gonna be a little bit easier to make it look slightly smoother as I am mixing everything together. I'm really afraid that my iPad is gonna die. It keeps going down.
It's gonna die. You have another charger?
Yeah, there's a charger in my room, in our room in the wall, unless Christopher took it. Or there's one by the side of my bed. But that charger is also not great. All right, so I'm mixing up in my bowl. I have my vinegar or lime juice. I have my mayo. I have my honey and my garlic clove that I minced. And so it looks like really like this. It doesn't look that great at the moment, but trust me, it's gonna be really good. Okay, so the other thing about this recipe that makes it not like your grandma's coleslaw is that we are going to add in some freshly chopped herbs. Now this I think is the make or break part of the best coleslaw ever. So in this recipe, I'm actually gonna use some green onions and I'm gonna use, wait for it, this is like the saddest looking mint ever, but I'm gonna be using some mint as well. Mint is something that is unexpected and it really like heightens and elevates the taste of this coleslaw. So I'm gonna use about 5 leaves of mint. 5 leaves. And this mint has, believe it or not, been in my fridge for like 2 weeks. And it looks sad, but it could look a lot sadder because I had wrapped it in paper towel and left it in there. I had this belief that I was gonna make mint tea at some point. I don't know what I was thinking, but here we are. All right, so 5 leaves of my mint. And then I have about 2 scallions. My scallions also have been in my fridge for a very long time. So they look a little sad. So I'm just gonna take off like these sad looking pieces, these outside layers. Just like so. And now I'm going to chop these things up. So for my scallions, actually I'm gonna give my scallions a rinse because scallions, sometimes there's some sand that can hide in the bottom here. So I just wanna rinse that off. And then I'm going to chop them up. I'm just gonna simply chop them. Normally when I chop scallions, I cut them in half. Then I bring everything kind of together. Oh, I also cut off these like random weird top parts. Bring everything all together. And then I just chop into little circles. And I use the whole scallion. I don't segregate between the white and the green part. There's no difference. The white part tends to be a little bit more oniony in flavor, like a little stronger, but you might as well use the whole thing. All right, so chopping this up. This is my dull knife now, because I used all my other knives already. And I'm gonna add this to my lovely cream mixture that I saw Chris made a beautiful emoji to earlier. And then for my mint leaves, I'm gonna chiffonade them, which means to place them on top of each other, like so. And then I'm gonna roll them into, for lack of a better term, a blunt.
No other term?
No other term. Someone in the comments, let me know another term for blunt. A cigar, there we go, a cigar. And so I'm just gonna take, all the leaves are stacked on top. Oops, all of them are stacked on top. Remember, it's 5 leaves. roll them on top of each other so I get a nice little fat kind of cigar here going. First time in life I've ever done that. And then I'm just gonna take my knife and easily cut them into ribbons, thin ribbons, which is what chiffonade actually means. I don't like to cut or like mince, mince mint too much because it's such a delicate herb, and if you mince it a lot, it starts to turn brown and it's just not really the same. So it's just nice to give it a nice chiffonade. All right, so in my bowl we have our mayo, honey, lime juice or vinegar, green onion, 5 mint leaves, both chopped, and our garlic clove that is minced. And I'm just gonna mix this around. And then now our vinaigrette is basically done. I haven't seasoned with salt and pepper, which you could do at this moment. I'm just gonna wait till I add in everything because, again, remember my dislike of mayonnaise. Normally I'm a very big proponent or fan of tasting everything as you go along. Not really in this. I don't really need to taste this mayonnaise lemon juice right now, but you could if you wanted to see where you are in the path. All right, so I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna chop up my cabbage next. So cabbage is something that is, I feel like it's an unsung hero of the kitchen because it's actually pretty good. It's like it can be slightly spicy. It can make really good soups. It's a really good addition to salads. And it's really, I guess I'm like on a money saving thing. So I'm like, it's really inexpensive. And we don't use it a lot. We really don't. So buy yourself a cabbage and do something with it this week. That is my one thing. New year, new cabbage. And oh, you can make it like fat loss or weight loss soup with it. There's like a whole cabbage soup diet. But yeah, try working with it if you haven't. Braised cabbage. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Braised cabbage. All right, but you saw what I did. I just tore off like the 2 outer leaves. I don't need this whole cabbage. I think that's one thing that keeps me away from buying cabbage is that when you buy it, you have to buy like this whole thing and you only normally need like a quarter of it. But that's why you explore your cabbage possibilities and find other things to do with it. I promise you, I'll post something else to do with cabbage this week. So yeah, I want to slice this up. And while I'm doing that, there is a question.
There's a question. Can you use purple cabbage? Is there a difference in the flavor between the two?
Yes, you can use purple cabbage. Purple cabbage is going to dye your whole dish purple. And there is a slight difference of flavor, but even amongst green cabbages, like sometimes I don't know if it's like a maturity level thing or something, but sometimes certain cabbages are just slightly more spicy, and there's honestly no way to tell in the store, just kind of what you get. When you cut your cabbage in half, you're gonna have a nice core right here in the center. You don't wanna eat that, so we wanna cut that part out. Like so. So my cabbage looks like this now. And now I wanna shred it as finely as I can. The finer you shred your cabbage, the better your coleslaw is going to taste. No one wants big hunks of chunks of cabbage in their mouth. No one really wants big hunks and chunks of anything in their mouth. Maybe some people. Anyway, so we're gonna slice this up. The easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is to cut this into quarters now, and then just simply take your knife and, oh, there's a little bit of lime, and then just run your knife down so you get your slices of cabbage. You can also use what is that thing called? A mandolin to do this. That's gonna give you the thinnest slices. It's also one of the tools that people hurt themselves in the kitchen the most because it's so sharp and people don't realize. You saw I just got to that part where the cabbage was about to fall over and I was about to cut myself. So now I'm gonna make it so I can cut it. So I'm just gonna flip it to a place where it's not rocking back and forth and continue to slice it just like so. We're looking for about 2 cups of cabbage. If you wanted to save yourself some time, you could totally buy the bagged cabbage and carrot already if you wanted to. If you've watched some of my other episodes or seen some things, I'm not a huge fan of like bagged lettuces, but cabbage is such a hearty vegetable that bagged cabbage is okay. I will not judge you for buying bagged cabbage. It saves a good amount of time. And normally you'll get the amount that you want and you won't have like just random leftover cabbage. So what I was just talking about, I can actually show you. This is a mandolin. And this is actually pretty inexpensive too. You can buy it for like $12. This particular brand, no need to spend like tons and tons of money on it. And you're just going to shave your cabbage. And you can see it comes out a lot more finer than my cut cabbage. Since I already cut most of my cabbage, I'm gonna just continue on the cutting path. But you can do either or. Oops.
And how many servings is cabbage?
So you're gonna end up with like
party of one.
Party of one?
Because of mayonnaise.
Oh. No, the servings, this is probably like 6 to 8 servings of cabbage. No one eats, again, no one in the comments let me know if they loved coleslaw. I'm pretty sure I've never met anyone that's like, oh my gosh, I love coleslaw. People typically don't eat a ton of coleslaw. I would say probably maybe about 1/4 of a cup. Although, like I said, it's a great accompaniment to fried food because it kind of breaks up that like heaviness of the fry.
And barbecue.
And barbecue.
That's the only time I eat coleslaw.
Exactly. Anything that's like very, very heavily flavored. All right, so we have our cabbage in our bowl with our marinade. If you're just joining us, we are making not your grandma's coleslaw, a twist on coleslaw, a little bit healthier, a little bit lighter, a lot more acidic with some fresh herbs in here. Now for the carrot, you definitely slice up your own carrot. This smells really funny. Hold on. Oh, I'm not using this. Welcome to real life cooking. So I bought this when did I buy this? I bought this for one of my cooking classes because I was trying to save myself some time. But this is perfect example of why you don't want to buy cut things already because they don't last very long. This actually almost tastes like pickled. Doesn't taste good at all. I should probably spit this out, but I'll be all right. So yeah, I'm not going to use the shredded carrot. I'm going to take a carrot out of my fridge and actually shred it myself. Oh my gosh, it's like carrot alcohol. It's like fermented. Which means I need to grab a peeler.
We have one person who loves coleslaw, but they only eat it if they know you like that.
Oh, okay. Now, it is one of it's like potato salad for sure. You can't just eat anyone's coleslaw because anything mayo based, you can't trust people. Like you don't know what else they put in it if they put all that mayo in there as well.
Yeah. Or too much mayo.
Or too much mayo. So because my already shredded carrot that was going to save me some time was disgusting and fermented, which is why you shouldn't buy pre-made product or pre-chopped products. I'm going to go ahead and peel a carrot. We want about, in total, 1 cup of shredded carrot. I'm probably not going to end up with that amount today because I only have 1 carrot. And you would want to grate this. If you have a box grater, that would be the easiest way to do that. My box grater just broke, so don't have that either. But I do have these handy, nifty things that my mother-in-law gave me. They're like peelers that make different... Oh, this one isn't the one that I wanted. They're peelers that make like different kinds of cool cuts. Where's the one that I want? Is this it? No. Now, of course, I can't find the one that I want. Now I have that song, You're the One That I Want, stuck in my head. There's a red one that makes like a julienne, and it's so cool because you just literally slide it down and it makes a julienne. But apparently today my coleslaw is going to have ribbons because that's what's creating right now. So I'm just going to make some ribbons with my peeler. This is actually, I like to make ribbons for just salads sometimes. It's like a different way of eating carrot, a little prettier. So I'm just using the peeler. Wow, this works really well. And then I flipped it over because I got it really thin on one side, but I don't want to waste all that carrot. So I flipped it over and I am doing the other side. If you guys have any culinary questions, please drop them in the box. TT is here to relay them to me so I can answer them.
We have another person who loves, I don't know who these people are, who loves coleslaw, but they use horseradish and olive oil when they make theirs.
That sounds like a good twist. It kind of makes it spicy. All right. Well, now I know 2 people in life that love coleslaw.
We do have a question from Tanya Griffin who wants to know, why did you eat that?
Why did I ate the carrot because I wanted to just make sure it was bad, which now I know it was bad. End of story. I didn't eat that much. I ate like 1 little sliver. All right, so I have all these beautiful carrot ribbons. I'm going to just chop them just a little bit, just so they're not like super long and more in line with the size of my cabbage. And before I finish off my coleslaw, I'm actually gonna start heating up my oil to fry my fish. So I'm using a cast iron skillet. You can use any heavy bottom skillet. We are doing a shallow fry today, not a deep fry. So we only need about 1 inch or so of oil in our pan. We want to use a high heat oil, like canola oil, vegetable oil, Crisco. I don't know. Do people still fry in Crisco?
I'm sure some people do. So Tanya Griffin has already started eating, and she says this tastes so good.
How'd you already start eating? How'd you get there?
She knows everything goes together with the coleslaw.
Oh, the coleslaw. Okay, cool. Great, awesome. I'm glad that you're enjoying. All right, so in our pan, we want to start heating our oil. About a cup, or not a cup, about 1 inch in your pan. Again, we're doing like a shallow fry here. Especially for fish, I like to do a shallow fry because I don't like to save fish grease. Some people do. If you do, awesome. Not for me. Not saving it. I don't fry fish enough to like cook it every week or something. So yeah, my oil's heating on a low heat back here, just because as soon as I want to fry my fish, I want my oil to be ready. Tip in the kitchen, always be a step ahead of yourself so you don't have to wait around for things to happen. I need to finish eating this carrot. I had to take that taste out of my mouth. That taste was in my mouth for a long time. For those of you who just joined, I ate some fermented carrot earlier and it was not delicious. Okay, so carrot in my bowl. This is a lot of coleslaw. At the bottom here is my vinaigrette. Now I'm gonna season with some salt and pepper. About half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt and a little bit of pepper. Pepper is something that is very personal to taste, whatever you like. You could leave it out if you don't want it. And I am going to mix this with my hands. I like to mix coleslaw with my hands, similar idea to like doing the fish. I like to just make sure it's all in there. The best way to do that is with your hands. Additionally, if you wanted to add some spice to this, you can add in a little bit of hot chili flake. That's going to counteract some of that creaminess. And if you're not a mayo lover, it's going to make it feel less mayo-y. All right. Question.
How long is this going to last in the refrigerator?
This, we don't want any fermented carrot in your coleslaw. I would say this would last, honestly, I always say things last 3 to 4 days, basically everything. This could probably last about 5 days. Coleslaw, again, is a very hearty vegetable. And we're mixing it with the mayo, nothing that is like overly, that will go bad overly fast. So I would say 5 days. Although, as your coleslaw sits in this like marination, it's going to start to break down and become less textured. So it's going to be more soft. If you're a texture person like me, then you probably want to eat it only in the first 2 days, because by the 3rd day it's like mushy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a preference thing if you don't like mushiness. All right, so I feel like I've been mixing this really well. Like as you can see, even just mixing it that little amount, the amount of vegetable kind of went down as it got marinated into it. All right, I'm going to rinse off my hand. My iPad is really gonna die. Instagram is gonna go away. This is what happens when I took a nap at 5 o'clock instead of making sure my materials are together. I'm gonna taste this, see how I feel about it.
Said no one ever.
No, it's good. It's like tangy. It's sweet from the honey. It has the garlic in the background, not overpoweringly garlic. I'm not mad at this. I could add a touch more honey for a little bit more sweetness and a little bit more salt for me. But other than that,
it smells good.
I'm pretty happy. I'm gonna make Titi taste this and make her have her reaction. I'm gonna bring her over here. You know, Titi's never been on camera on Real Life Cooking.
On purpose.
She's always in the background. All right, so coleslaw is done. I'm gonna let this sit to the side. I'm gonna give Titi a small taste. You have some water over there in case you don't like it, right?
I don't. Bingo said that looks good, but that's a lot.
A lot of coleslaw?
Mm-hmm.
So you can always adjust the recipe. Again, coleslaw is something that is totally adjustable. You don't have to make this whole big batch at all by any means. All right, so I'm gonna leave this sitting out while we move on to fry our fish. I'm gonna wait for Titi to taste it as I gather my things.
You gotta move along.
So I'm still waiting. As we, here's a moment of truth. She's tasting it, guys.
No, it's not bad.
Oh, not bad. And she kept making all the faces at the mayo the whole time. So it's like light, right? It's not like I'm eating cabbage and mayonnaise. It's like...
It's very acidic, which I like. I think most time when I have coleslaw, it's not as acidic. And I can taste the sweetness, which takes away from the mayo, which is perfect.
Yeah, and then like you have that slight hint of those herbs and the garlic in the background, but it's not like too much. So that, yeah, we have a winner here. If TT likes it, means something. Not really, because TT kind of likes everything, but
whoa,
you know.
Whoa.
But if you're cooking along at home, you're not quite there yet, please let me know if you have any questions about the coleslaw. I will definitely come back to those if you're not quite done with it. But in the meantime, we are gonna move on to frying our fish. So our fish has been marinating in some milk, paprika, oregano, and garlic for like 20 minutes or so. And we have our oil heating in the back. So now we're gonna prepare our frying coating kind of mixture. So for this, we're gonna use some cornmeal, majority cornmeal actually. I really like using cornmeal when we're doing fish, especially catfish, because the other thing that people find off-putting about catfish is that the texture can be a little off. It's not as flaky and like light and buttery as a lot of other fishes. It's a little more dense. So the cornmeal kind of adds a bit more crunch to it, so it adds that texture. So you want to use a fine cornmeal, not like one time I tried to use like polenta to fry. Not a great idea because then you're like really crunching. It tastes like sand. Not great. So we're gonna use about a cup of our cornmeal. Again, no exact science here. I'm just making a dusting method. And then you're gonna use a half a cup of flour. Now, if you want even more crispy fish, you can use self-rising flour, which is the flour I always recommend to fry chicken in as well. You can make your own self-rising flour. I'm not gonna tell you how now. You have to take my class to figure out how to do that. Chefleen Virtual Kitchen, join me. But self-rising flour is gonna give you a slight more crisp on your fry. But regular flour works perfectly fine. And I didn't want to tell you guys to buy a whole bag of self-rising flour if you're not gonna like use it all the time. So half a cup of flour to about a cup of our cornmeal. Oops. And then you want to season your flour mixture with some salt. If you are feeling frisky, you can also season it with spices again. But if you are not an avid fryer, I would suggest holding off on seasoning your flour with spices until you perfect the frying kind of thing. Because if you when you season your flour with spices and then you fry, you're a lot more apt to burn whatever you're cooking. And it's just a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more finicky. So just sticking with straight flour and salt is gonna make your life a little bit easier if you're not the best fryer. All right, so I'm just using a fork to kind of dust this around. Question?
Any tips for frying fish in an air fryer?
You know, I've never really worked with an air fryer. I don't imagine, I don't know, honestly, how they work so well. I don't imagine that coating something with flour in an air fryer would be that delicious, because I feel like that what happens in an air fryer is like air, it gets hot enough that it's like crisping things up. And I just don't know if you dredge something in flour, how crispy that would actually get. But I'm not an expert, so I'll let you know. Let me know. Send me a DM and I will do some more research and let you know.
It's Stephanie.
Oh, Stephanie, you can research yourself. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I just never had space for an air fryer before, but maybe now in my new luxurious kitchen, I will buy an air fryer and I will test out some recipes. But I've heard a lot of good things about air fryers. People love their air fryers. All right. Okay, so our flour, salt, cornmeal mixture is here. Our fish is here. Sometimes I will add an egg to this, which will make your coating like a little bit more thick. But in this case, I'm gonna keep it very traditional, just like our ancestors did. Because, you know, fried fish came about because one, it was easily accessible. It was easy to get fish. It wasn't that expensive. We started frying it a lot because frying things helps things become more mobile. As soon as you fry something, it's a lot easier to transfer than if you like made a buttered fish or something. You're not gonna be able to transfer it. Put it on sandwiches. And you know, it doesn't take a lot of ingredients to fry. You literally just need seasoning and cornmeal or flour. You don't even need the milk, but the milk came along later, like to really elevate it and take it to the next level. But that's why I'm gonna keep it simple. It's like there's extra, there's middle, and there's like the basics. This is like the middle kind of version of frying fish. Question?
Name a restaurant where you have the best fried catfish.
My dad's house. I don't order catfish out, honestly. I grew up eating fried catfish. Not all the time, but often enough. And I don't order. I couldn't tell you the best fried fish I've had out. Yeah. Let us know in the comments where the best fish that you can find out.
We have a few comments about an air fryer. So some tips are you just need oil. You don't need flour and cornmeal for air frying, just seasoning and follow the cooking times.
There we go. So yeah, don't dredge anything that's going in the air fryer. All right, so I put my fish on this plate. Sometimes people use a bowl. I find dredging on a plate is a little bit easier for me. Sometimes people will dredge in a plastic bag, which works great for chicken, but fish is a little more delicate. So if you're shaking around fish, it can break apart a little bit easier. So I find this method works decently for me here. So I'm just gonna coat it in. Now, again, if you wanted a thicker coating of your fish or of your batter, you can, one, add an egg to this, which is gonna help the batter stick more, or you can batter it once, or dredge it once, sorry, not batter it. Dredge it once in the flour, dip it back in the mixture, and then dredge it again. Again, keeping it at the moderate level of cooking, I'm just gonna dredge it once. I think I can fit about 6 pieces, so I'm gonna dredge as many pieces that can fit into my fryer, or into my pan at a time. And then I'm gonna get to frying. Hopefully my oil will be hot enough. So in my fried chicken class that we teach, Drake and I both teach a fried chicken class, we hone in on that 350 temperature, which is the temperature you always wanna fry things at. It's a little less important, like having that super, super high heat when you're doing a shallow pan fry. However, if your oil is too cold, your fish is just gonna be oily. So you're looking for a very specific thing, which I will show you when we get there. You're looking for a very specific thing, but if you have a thermometer, that's the best thing you can use when you are frying to make sure you're at that 350 temperature. Another trick you can use is stick a wooden spoon inside of your oil, and if your wooden spoon around the bottom of it starts to bubble up, that pretty much means your oil is probably at the right temperature as well. Or you could do the guess and check method, which is what I'm gonna do now. I'm going to just lay one little sacrificial piece of fish into my pan, and it's bubbling, it's making noise, so I think we're good. All right, so I'm gonna put the other ones in. Whew. So growing up, I was actually really afraid of frying. I still kind of low-key am. It's not my favorite thing to do, because it is a very dangerous kind of situation. You're heating up oil to 350 degrees and putting things that have moisture in them into that 350 degrees. So it's something when you're frying, you want to be very, very careful. You want to make sure that you're watching what you're doing, and be close. It's not something that you can just walk away from, feed your kids, feed your dog. No, fry and then until you're done, and then move on. So I'm gonna, while my hand is still dirty, I'm gonna dredge the other pieces for my next round of fish. Oh, it smells good. It smells promising. Question.
Would cod work as well with this method?
Cod would work, although I like frying cod with panko rather than cornmeal, just because it gives it a little bit more crisp to it, because cod is a little bit more buttery kind of and flakier, so I like that extra crisp that panko gives to it. But you can do the same milk method and then dredge it in your panko or flour, kind of like a combination of both. All right, so now that I've dredged 2 batches of fish, now I'm gonna wash my hands. Anyone that says that you can dredge things without messing up your hands, they're not real chefs, they're lying to you. Do not believe the Food Network or anyone on TV that's like, oh, you have 3 bowls and 3 pairs of tongs, you will not get your hands dirty. That's a lie. The lie detector test determined that is a lie. All right, I would move you guys to show you what my fish is looking like, but my iPad is really on like 1%, so we're gonna have to just trust in my description, see how well I can describe this. So my fish has actually turned golden brown already. Fish is gonna cook very fast. It should only take like 2 to 3 minutes on each, and I have to flip it because we're doing a shallow fry, so half of my fish, ooh, there goes my iPad. Half of my fish is out of the oil, and the other half is still inside. So I have to flip it over after about a minute or two. So I'm gonna flip this over, and while I flip it over, I'm gonna try to figure out how I can turn on my iPad, because Instagram, you can't even hear me. And while I am waiting for my fish to finish, I'm gonna grab a baking sheet. Oh, actually, someone just gifted me a baking rack. All right, so we have our fish frying 2 to 3 minutes on each side. And what I'm gonna use, normally I would use paper towels before I was really fancy. Now I have baking racks, which I actually really appreciate because it'll keep my fish nice and crispy when I take it out of the oil. So I'll have this to the side, ready to go. And I think my fish is actually done. I'm gonna leave it for like 30 more seconds. Is it still plugged into that that thing that was in? Might be better if it was in like just a regular. Sorry, Facebook, technical difficulties. And remember when I said do not walk away from frying things? Do as I say, not as I do. Is there an actual out like a plug?
Go get it from the room.
Okay. All right, now I'm gonna take out my fish. And I'm gonna add in my next batch. And I'll bring this over so you guys can see what it looks like. Gonna add in my next batch of fish. And dredge my next batch as well. Since I'm here, my hands are already a little dirty. Going to dredge this here. All right, so all my fish is dredged. I have my second batch of fish in the fryer, or in my pan frying, rinsing off my hand. And now I want to show you what my fish looks like after I fried it. This is how my fish is looking. Looks perfectly brown, golden brown. Now, if you're a little afraid of how if your fish is done or not, there is no shame in your game of cracking open, I would say, one of the larger pieces, carefully, and just checking to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. And what you're looking for is that it's no longer opaque, that it kind of flakes apart. And then you can also go ahead and taste it. Oh, it's hot. Final step, anything fried, you always want to sprinkle a little salt when it comes out on the fry of the oil. All right. Gonna flip over. I feel so bad. There's people cooking along on Instagram and they're just lost in the dust because my iPad is just decided to turn off.
It's just not really charging.
Maybe I use your phone even though you won't be able to watch?
Yeah.
Sorry guys. This is how we start off real life cooking with a bang. Real life technology. Oh, I just changed my password. People are like, what's going on?
Yeah. And it lets you keep chatting, so I was telling people to go to Facebook. Or to wait.
All right. Let's see. Checking connection. Oh. All right, Facebook. Not Facebook. Instagram. I am back. So sorry for the interruption if you were cooking long. You're probably not back with me yet, but I'm back. I'm going to flip over my fish. My second batch of fish has been cooking in the oil. Whew.
How long on each side again? What are we looking for?
About 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how thick your fish is.
What are you looking for? Because Instagram didn't get that thing.
Oh, yeah. So, Instagram, welcome back. I'm so sorry I left you. Now look, I'm mobile. Look. Oh, hey, guys. What's up? All right. So, our fish, I already took out my first batch of fish. Here it is right here on the sheet tray. And this is what my fish is looking like in the oil over here. So, it's about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Because we're doing the shallow fry, I did not want you guys to see that big giant bag of chips I have behind in my refrigerator. Because if we're doing a shallow fry, you have to flip your fish over after about 2 to 3 minutes. How long your fish is going to cook depends on the thickness of your fish. If your fish is thinner than this, it's going to cook a little bit faster than the 2 to 3 minutes. And then, final tip is when you take it out, you want to sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. Anything fried, you definitely want to sprinkle with a little bit of salt as soon as it comes out of the oven, out of this oil. As we learned on, what is that show that I was, Kitchen Crash? Definitely always want to put some oil, some salt on whatever you take out of the oil. So my second batch is almost done.
And what are you looking for in terms of flakiness when you bite into it or break it open?
Oh yes. So if you're in doubt that your fish is not done, one second, I'll turn around and talk to you guys so you can hear. If you're in doubt that your fish is not done, there is no shame in literally, I mean, I just took some of it out of the oven. This is my first batch. Literally just breaking open a piece and checking to see what it looks like inside. So what you're looking for is that, remember when our fish was raw, it was like opaque and like kind of translucent. When your fish is cooked, it's gonna look white. So that's what you're looking for. And it's so nice and juicy from that milk and it smells really good. I'm gonna get my last batch of fish in here. So we can finish this up. And then when you take your fish out of the oil, if you have a baking rack, like what you see I'm putting my fish on, that's ideal. That would be number one if you have that. Any kind of fried food you want to put on top of a baking rack, that is going to help it stay nice and crispy. The air is going to circulate under it and it's not going to get soggy at all. If you don't have a baking rack, you can use the old school paper towels, but you do want to make sure you have something that is draining off that grease, because if you don't, you're going to have greasy fish. So again, frying tips, make sure your oil is nice and hot. Make sure that your oil is I'll show you guys again, looking like this when you put it in the oil. You don't want it to be, if it's not doing this, then your oil is not hot enough.
What kind of oil are you using again to fry?
I'm using vegetable oil, but you can use canola. Oh, there goes that big box of chips again. You can use I'm using vegetable oil. You can use canola oil, using peanut oil. You can use avocado oil, any kind of high heat oil. Avocado oil I wouldn't recommend just because it's so expensive to use so much of it in this application, but any of those oils will work. So yeah. So 2 to 3 minutes on each side. You see it goes pretty fast, which is another reason that fish fries are pretty popular, because low cost, you can cook it fast, you can feed a lot of people. So that's why they became like main staples in neighborhoods. People come in and out of the houses, eat fish, hang out. And fried fish goes back to our entrepreneur spirit, because we also started selling fried fish, which led to us having some coins in our pockets. Was there a question?
What's the best way to heat up fried fish?
Ooh, good question. Oh, I was flipping it over. The best way to heat up fried fish, one second. Let me just get this last batch flipped over. The best way to heat up fried fish, or actually anything fried, is gonna be in the oven. Ideally on a tray like this, because then you're circulating the air underneath it again. Now, I realize that is not actually logical for real life. Who has time to like want to wash this 3 times every time you want to heat a fish? So you can just put it on a baking tray and put it in the oven, like 400 degrees for like 5 to 7 minutes. You can heat it in the microwave. Not really recommended because it ends up soggy. So definitely, if you have an air fryer actually would be really good to heat up fish, because it's circulating all that hot air around as well. All right, cool. So only thing we have left to do is plate our delicious meal. I forgot where the plates are. My kitchen. So we have our coleslaw that we created. Remember, it's not our grandma's coleslaw. We have some lime juice in here. We have a little touch of honey. We have very minimal mayonnaise, and we have some nice fresh herbs, our mint and our green onion, and that hint of garlic, fresh garlic in the background. And we just shredded that. And you can see, even in the time that it's been sitting here, it's even decreased in size as that cabbage kind of like gets in there, gets into all that dressing. So this, I would say, is like an appropriate amount of coleslaw to eat. It's like 1/4 of a cup. So yeah, this makes a good amount of coleslaw. But as Vanga said earlier, it makes a lot, but you don't have to make the whole recipe. You can cut it in half if you would like, if you don't want to make so much. Let me take out my last batch of fish before I keep talking and I burn it. Now, fish grease, you can keep and use up to 2 more times. I'm sure if you ask someone a little more seasoned than me, they probably use it a few more times than that. But for me, my recommendation is up to 2 times to use fish grease. And I would not recommend frying anything else in fish grease besides fish, because it's just gonna taste like fish. Like if you, let me sprinkle a little bit of salt. Remember, when it comes out of the oil, a little bit of salt on top. And then let me grab my pieces of fish, stick them on here. You can make a really nice sandwich too if you just put this on some bread with the coleslaw, toasted bread, butter. And here we have our fried fish and our coleslaw, not your grandma's coleslaw, made on our first episode of Real Life Cooking, which of course is eventful because my iPad died. Thank you all who tuned in and cooked along. Please post your pictures if you cooked along tonight at Chefleen. Obviously, you know my handle because you're watching me, but just thought I'd reiterate it. Make sure you join some of my classes where I teach one-on-one, Chefleen's Virtual Kitchen, teach one-on-one cooking classes step by step. I go a lot slower, I promise. And I have some really cool events coming up for March. I have like a St. Patrick's Day event. Drake is hosting a St. Patrick's Day event. And I have a vegan soul food class coming up this week, actually. So if you're into soul food, trying to make it a little bit lighter, or you just want to see a different twist on it, join in the vegan soul food class. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for TT hiking all the way over to my house, which is a whole 3 extra blocks away now.
It is. I had to remember that.
She feels it in her legs. And I hope you try this out, enjoy it. I will be emailing out the recipe in my newsletter this week, so hopefully you will try it out. All right, thanks guys so much. Let me make sure there's no questions that I can't see. Oh, no, the angle. Oh, hey, Hannibal's Kitchen. So I have a new kitchen. I moved apartments, so I have a much better kitchen now. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions, please DM me. I'll be sending out the recipe. Make sure to sign up for my newsletter at chefleen.com. And I will see you guys next week. Next week, I have Shaylee's Tyson and her children, and we're going to be making spaghetti and meatballs. So see you guys next week. Adios.